Gemara on Daf Details begins with a question of whether or not basar b'chalav is asur shaloi kederech hanasan. Abai says it is because it doesn't say lo soichal by basar b'chalav. We learn it from treifa, while the Makshin says since we learn it from treifa and by treifa it says lo soichal, hu adin basar b'chalav will also only be asur kederech hanasan. Then the Gemara discussed klaya kerem, whether or not it has a shasa kosher. Is there any part of the klaya kerem that becomes asur that was once mutter? So the Gemara says when you plant a seed of another species in a kerem, that seed does not become asur until it takes root. Once it takes root, the seed itself is asur, which would indicate that the seed had a shasa kosher before it became asur. The Gemara asks a kasha from otutznaka, of a flower pot that has holes in the bottom, that has a plant growing in it, and you take that into a kerem, and the plant, through the air, nourishes from the ground. The Brisa says if that plant grows one part out of 199, then the entire plant will be asur. And Rashi explains the entire plant is asur because you need 200 to 1 to be mevatel the isur klayim. Here you only have 199 to 1, and therefore the isur klayim is going to be asur, and since it's mixed with the rest of the plant, the whole plant is asur. But the rest of the plant did not become asur machmas klayim, only because there's one part mixed into it. So you see, in fact, that only the new part that grows has an isur klayim, not any of the existing, which would indicate that klayim does not have a shasa kosher. So for that, the Gemara says that there's a difference between zera and milea. When you plant a seed, when that seed starts to grow and it starts to take root, then even the seed itself becomes asur b'hana, als klayim. But if you have an existing plant that's already partially grown, and you transplant that into a kerem, and it continues to grow, then only the new part that grows is actually klayim, and the rest of the plant remains not klayim. If it's asur, it's only asur because there's klayim mixed into it. The next thing the Gemara discusses is, although we're allowed to be over isurim for pikuach nefesh, if someone has any isurim that he needs to eat in order to be able to save his life, or if he has to have anof isurim in order to save his life, he's allowed to. The exception to that rule is an asherah, it's avodah zarah. And since in order to save yourself, you have to give value to the avodah zarah, you're not allowed to save yourself, and you're not allowed to use that avodah zarah. The Gemara learns that out of the pasuk that we say in Krishma all the time. No matter what's the most important thing to you, if the most important thing to you is your life, you have to sacrifice that for the love of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If your money is the most important thing, then you need to sacrifice that for the love of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And therefore, since it's going to be a terrible chilul to use the Atzei Asherah to save your life, you're not allowed to save your life. Then the Gemara brings from Rabbi Yochanan that not only must someone refrain from saving himself with avodah zarah, gilui arayis, and shvichas damim, all those three things, you have to give your life up rather than be over them. We know avodah zarah from v'ahavta Hashem Elokecha b'chol levav v'chol nafshecha. We know shvichas damim because if someone tells me, if you don't kill Ruvain, I'm going to kill you, Rava says, my chazid did damid dach sumik tvei, dilma damid chavrach sumik tvei. Who said Hashem wants your life more than your friend's life? And therefore, you're not allowed to be a daim, go and kill somebody else. You have to allow yourself to get killed. By the Naira Hamurasa Shanensa, the pasuk says, "Hikasher Yokum Ish Al Re'eu Ritzachei Nefesh Kenadavar Hazeh." The Torah compares the nenas of Naira Hamurasa to Ritzach. The Gemara says there's a reciprocal lesson, and we learn just like by Naira Hamurasa, if you see someone running after a Naira Hamurasa and you need to kill him in order to prevent him from doing the Aveira, you're allowed to kill him. So too, if you see someone running after somebody who's trying to kill that somebody, you're allowed to kill the Reitzeach to prevent him from killing whoever he's trying to kill. On the flip side, from Reitzeach, we learn a halacha that just like by a Reitzeach, you're not allowed to kill somebody to save your life, so too, you're not allowed to be over gilui arayis in order to save your life. Then the Gemara said over a story about Ravina, who used the Surei Hana, he used Orla to smear on his daughter. And Mar Bar Avashi asked, why are you allowed to do that? So one reason the Gemara offers is that his daughter was a chaylanes amusukenes, and it was pikuach nefesh, and that's why he was allowed to use it. And the other reason is that he used the oil of a olive that wasn't fully grown, which means it was shaloi kader chana asan, and that's why he was able to smear his daughter with it. And then the Gemara gets into a very interesting question: if you have a hana shabal adam bal karchay, if someone is having hana but he doesn't want that hana. For instance, he's walking down the street and he's walking by a bakery of Avodah Zarah and he smells the beautiful aroma of their baked goods, but he doesn't want to be smelling that. Would that be asur? Abaye says it's mutter, and Rava says it's asur. The first pshat in what our machlokes is we know the famous Reb Shimon who holds the davar she'eina mechaven is mutter. For instance, if you're dragging a bench across a yard, it's going to dig a hole as it's dragged across the yard, but that's not your intention. Your intention is just to bring it to the other side of the yard. Reb Shimon says that that's mutter. So the machlokes is Abaye holds Reb Shimon says it's mutter, even if I could have done it in a different way. While Rava holds the only time Reb Shimon is matter is only if I couldn't have done it in a different way, and therefore, in this case, if it was Evshir v'loika machaven, if you could have went a different way, it's just that you're going to go this way by choice, but you're going to have in mind not to enjoy, Reb Shimon would not hold that would be mutter. That's the first lashon. The second lashon is, of course, if it's Evshir v'loika machaven, Reb Shimon holds across the board that it's not going to be asur. The question here is, if it was lo yefshu mechaven, he had no choice, he had to walk by that bakery, but he had kavana to enjoy. There, according to Reb Shimon, for sure it will be asur because kavana counts. But according to Reb Yehuda, who says that when it's efshu v'loika mechaven, Reb Yehuda holds it's asur anyway. What would he hold in the opposite case of a lo yefshu v'mechaven? Rava holds it would be asur, but Abaye holds that from the fact that Reb Yehuda says loika mechaven doesn't help, shows that kavana is not important. It's only the efsheris that's important. So since it was lo efsher, even if it was mechaven, according to Abaye, Reb Yehuda would hold that would be mutter.